Get this shit out of here! When I see bad trucks, it makes my stomach churn. What do I mean by bad trucks? Trucks that were either so poorly built they just turned out to be pieces of junk on the road, or trucks that were so damn ugly nobody wanted to buy them and their sales numbers were really low. We're doing something a little different on the channel. Today, we're going to look at the 5 worst trucks ever. If you'd like to check out our video on the 5 best trucks ever, the link is in the description. Number 1 on our list, the GMC Astro, known for its bad build quality. Now these trucks literally shook and jumped themselves apart. It was probably because of the short wheelbase and the spring ride rear ends. They had a full glass front that seemed like it came down to your knees, but the truck was so short and the suspension at the back on the drives kicked back all the time. So it always felt like the truck was trying to flip you out through the windshield. You always knew driving the GMC Astro that you would be the first one at the scene of the accident and you'd probably end out on the roadway. But GM, in spite of this bad build, was determined to break into the Class 8 truck market. Second on our junky truck list is the GMC General, also known for its bad quality build. When General Motors decided to get into the business of building Class 8 trucks, they tasked their car dealerships with doing all the warranty work and repair and the maintenance on these trucks. But the dealerships weren't really prepared for this. They didn't have truck mechanics. Most of them didn't even have doors high enough to get the trucks inside the shop. And as a result of that, a lot of this mechanical work was done outside, which is not so bad in California. But if you're in Winnipeg in the winter, it's a disaster. This whole maintenance thing with these trucks got to be such a disaster that the GM dealers started to rebel and revolt. And this was one factor that actually led to General Motors getting back out of the Class 8 truck market. Third on our junk build truck list, and known for, again, its bad build quality, once again, made by General Motors, the first North American built Volvos. In 1986, General Motors announced a building agreement with Volvo of Sweden, and the trucking industry was ecstatic. Volvos were known worldwide as a great truck. And in 1986, GM started manufacturing these trucks for Volvo. Volvo would design the truck, but General Motors would build the truck. And even though Volvo had a stellar reputation, General Motors quickly did their best to destroy the reputation of the Volvo here in North America by churning out just nothing but junk with a Volvo name tag on it. Word got around pretty quickly, sales fell, Volvo was more than disappointed and ended their agreement in 1997. A few years later, they came over and built their own plant in North Carolina in 2009 and started producing their own quality built Volvos. But the first ones made by General Motors were just pure junk. The fourth truck on our list, not a piece of junk, but particularly ugly, the 372 Peterbilt. In 1988, Peterbilt decided to try to revive the cab-over market. Now, one of the biggest problems with the cab-overs was that they didn't get very good fuel mileage. Peterbilt developed the 372 model. It had a wedge-shaped nose, a high bunk for airflow, and the thing actually got over 10 miles to the gallon, which was incredible for a truck of that time. But it was so ugly and so wedge-shaped, people called it the Peterbilt football. It didn't sell at all. It was designed for teams and owner-operators, but nobody was buying the thing, and Peterbilt ended up discontinuing that model just because of poor sales. And back then, how the truck looked was more important than the fuel mileage, and people just didn't buy it. Finally, the fifth dog on our list, and again, kind of ugly, and that led to it not selling, was the Freightliner Argosy. Now, the Argosy was Freightliner's attempt to revive the cab-over market because Freightliner knew that soon 53-foot trailers would be introduced and they wanted to have a cab-over available. It had a flat floor, it had steps on the sides of the cab that actually swung out to help the driver get in and out. Sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. But one of the problems was it was only available with small engines. You could get a small Cat, a small Cummins, or the 60 series Detroit. Didn't have a lot of power. But worse than that, customers thought it was ugly. I didn't think it was particularly bad, but the majority of people didn't buy it because they thought it was ugly. Freightliner ended up discontinuing this truck, and you still see a few of them on the road today, but it was not a big seller because of its looks, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the market was leaning at that point towards trucks with hoods. At the end of the day, these trucks made our list because they were either pieces of junk and poorly built, or they were just too damn ugly to sell. I've actually got a story about one of the trucks on this list, the GMC General. Back in the day, I worked with a fella that owned one of these trucks, and it was known to have rattles, and it rocked and it rolled and it broke down and the hood shook off all the time. Had one issue after another. The guy was a nice guy, he was a hard worker, but not particularly savvy when it came to trucks. He hadn't been in the trucking industry a long time. And one day he caught me at the yard and he said, "I've got this noise that is driving me nuts and I cannot find it, this rattle. See if you can find it for me." And he had the hood open and the truck was running, and he says, "It only does it when it's running." So he's thinking the motor. So he fired the truck up and you could hear this clanking sound. But what it was the truck had come with rain caps on the top of the stacks. So when the truck was running, these stacks were blowing the caps open and they were clacking up and down. He'd never thought to look up at the stacks to see if the noise came from up there. The moral of the story is, this damn truck had so many rattles, he had trouble just finding them all. Stay safe, keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you on the backhaul.